Now, you've met a company called Atomy. You've met a company that aims to write a new history of network marketing. A company that tries to realize network marketing in this world as it's written in textbooks. And you're now looking at those who've become successful through Atomy. Then, how will you become successful? The key question is, how can each one of you, every person here, become successful? In most cases, people will study from age 0 to 30. Then they'll usually work until age 60. And from age 60 to 90, they'll live a life after retirement. So people will study hard for 30 years and work diligently for another 30 years to live well. But the statistics show that only 1% of people were successful at age 60, meaning that they became rich. About 4% aren't rich, but still manage to not have any economic problems. However, about 70% face their retirement age without a job or money. Since this is an old statistic, and another country's statistic, there can be slight differences in the numbers. But what we can all agree is that only 1 out of 100 people around us will be called rich. About 95% have mostly failed in life. Then, the question is, why do most people fail? If you're in this situation at age 60, then your life after retirement is threatened. There is something that will always come to you as you age without any money. What is that? It's illness. Then you'll need more money and your body continues to get worse. When you're young, you can make a living with or without money. But at an old age, money is a necessity. Also, there are rumors spreading around these days. You can live to 100 years old, or even live longer to 120 years old. Then this life of agony lasts for 60 years. Living without money for 60 years is a huge burden on your family, and you also have to endure this harsh life. Now, what's the reason behind so many people becoming failures? Then what kind of people become successful? There are things that successful people have and know in common. The law of success. A law doesn't become a law just because someone comes up with it. For something to become a law, we should always get the same results under the same conditions. The law has always existed. So, it's also called a principle. A principle. Something that always existed. It's known as a principle. So, this is like the laws of nature. The laws of nature have remained the same. So, a person named Stephen Covey explained this using the True North principle. The True North principle states that the North is already fixed. We're going to follow the principles, or the laws as it is. So, not going to do as I please, but strictly follow the laws. So, this is commonly known as the law of nature. And this law of nature is sometimes referred to as the law of farming. When farming, it must be done in accordance with the law of nature. When farming in Korean Peninsula, should we plant crops in the fall or not? Never. In accordance with the law of nature and the law of farming, the appropriate time to plough the land and to plant the crops would be in the spring, and to harvest in autumn. So, when we look at how farmers work in their farms, we also get to know the cycle, right? As we know everything, we can also realize the law of success by studying it carefully. Then, what should a farmer do first to start farming? Some people say, prepare seeds first, while others say, buy a field to plant the seeds. No, money is important to buy a field. No, plowing the field should be done first. People speak of different priorities, but the farmer needs to first decide on how many crops will be harvested at the end. So, every decision will be based on the final produce. This is the law of farming. After planting and looking after the crops, the 2 bags of rice that was in the mind will eventually go into the storehouse in autumn. Now, this is the law of farming. It is the same for the law of success as well. According to the law of farming, 2 bags of rice that goes into the storehouse in autumn should have first entered the farmer's mind. Before I move to a new house, that house should first come into my mind. Whether I'm going to move to an apartment or a house, and is it going to be 135 or 330 square meters unit? All this information should be in my mind first before I can move to that house. Someone asks, how did you end up living in this house? But no one will say that, I don't know, I woke up and found myself in this house. If we want to become a successful person, where should the image of a successful self be in first? In my mind. Afterward, it comes out for everyone else to see it. In the company's motto, there is a phrase, create the vision. It means create the vision in your mind. Imagine it in the mind. But it's complicating to explain, so the term create is used. Imagine in the mind how my life will be like in the future. It can only be realized when it's imagined in my mind. Now, if you think that your life today is lacking something, and you don't like it, think back whether you imagined the life you wanted to live in the mind 3 or 5 years ago. You didn't imagine it, so you're living a life that you don't like today. If you want to live a life that you like in 3 or 5 years later, then you've got to clearly imagine the life you want to live in your mind today. If you don't have it, I assure you that your life in 3 years will still be unsatisfying. Even after 10 years, your life will remain unsatisfying. If you want to change your life as you want it to be, then you've got to imagine that life in your mind. But that life is pretty complicated, right? But the reason why it isn't simple is because people are created as complex beings. How a person is created is that everyone has a flesh. Then inside the flesh, there are a spirit and a soul. Afterward, we don't live alone, but we have relatives, countries, and natural environments. So we are surrounded by various environments. People are largely composed of these 4 components. We need to satisfy their desires. That way, when I die, I can pass on without any regrets. If I shorten it to one word, live well. Now, we have to live well and love each other. Then, our souls also have an intellectual desire. So, if you're ignorant, you live a life of regret. So, we must learn. Then we experience joy, anger, sorrow, and pleasure, which is a desire to live with a calm feeling. So, we learn about our emotions. After that, we have a desire to live a contributing life that benefits the surrounding environment. So, these are the 4 components of a human being, and we need to have a plan that satisfies all these desires evenly. So we need to live a balanced life that evenly satisfies all 4 components. So, what our goal in life should be is to lead a balanced life. Repeat after me. Balanced life. Live well. Love each other. Learn. Contributing life. Memorize this. That's why our goal in life, the way we live, the balanced life, should be clearly imagined in our mind. But since it's not simple, so we have to imagine everything like a movie in our mind. So, this evening, start writing out your life scenario here. Imagine the life that you want to live in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years, then write it out like a scenario. Also, write out the plan for when you want to reach a certain position. I'll reach this position on this year. Your seniors are well aware of the required amounts, so ask them and write out the plan. When you look at the form, it's like this. So these components should be written inside the circle. When we discuss the issue of food, clothing, and shelter, the biggest issue would be housing in most cases. Then we write housing here like this. If we want to live well, we'd need a car, right? Then, what else would we need to live well? We could do voluntary work. And what else could be included? Let's write voluntary work and donation together. Then what else could be written down? Health. We should live a healthy life, right? So, we have these various components to live well. Then, we'd assess each component. There is a scale here. For the housing component, assess whether I'm satisfied with the housing, and check how many points out of 10 points. Now, I want to live in a house with a size of 330 square meters, but it's currently only 83 square meters. Then it's 2.5 points, right? 25 points out of 100 points. Then, this is your point. Now, I'm living in a house with a size of 83 square meters, but I want to eventually move to a house with a size of 330 square meters. How much is a house with a size of 330 square meters? That would usually be around 2 to 4 billion Korean won. In the countryside, it'll be about 2 billion Korean won, and about 4 billion Korean won in Seoul. Now, let's say it's 2 billion Korean won. Then, if it's an 83 square meters unit, it would be around 400 million won. I'll buy a 166 square meters unit with 1 billion Korean won on the way to the final goal. Then, write down the deadline for each event. Write it down here that event is for now, this event for 2 years later, that event in 5 years later, and so on. So I'll be living in a 166 square meters unit in 2 years, and then moving to 330 square meters unit in 5 years. But you need to vividly imagine that 330 square meters house, very clearly. In order to do that, go visit various show houses. Check out the price. We need to live well because we have someone we love. If you don't live well, your love may turn sour. There are people who just live. Those who just continue to live, couples that just continue to live together. I loved my wife, so I chased her for a year. Then we finally got married. We lived well together. I started an online department store, but since it was ahead of its time, my business completely failed. I had a hard time running the business and eventually failed. We moved to a room with a month rent of 500,000 KRW and lived there for 3 years. But the house had old wooden window frames, so it was really cold. In winter, we would take plastic sheets and cover the window frames, then water drops will form up on the sheets. These water drops will eventually fall into the wooden window frame, and the frame went moldy. And so when I enter the house, it smells musty. And also, very cold in the winter. So I would tell my wife that, hey, just turn on the heater to high temperature. You shouldn't try to save money when you don't have any money. Then my wife said, do you think I don't know that it's cold in here? She would shout back at me. What she means is that you're not the only cold one here, and she is also cold, but since you're not earning any money, we're all freezing here. So I said, don't try to save money when you don't have any money, just spend it as much as you can. Listen, don't try to save up money when you don't have any money, just use it all up. Only fools would try to save money when they don't have any. For 3 years, I saved 50,000 Korean won per month, in that cold room by not heating the room. I'd have lived in a warmer room if I'd used 50,000 Korean won for heating, right? Much warmer if I'd used 150,000 Korean won instead of 100,000 Korean won. 5 months, which is 250,000 Korean won per year, and then multiply it by 3 years. How much is it? I shivered in cold for 3 years just to save 750,000 Korean won. I still shudder in anger when I think about it. So I told my wife, don't try to save money when you don't have any money. Just spend it as much as you can. But she replied, we're living poorly like this because you think like that. So we would keep arguing on and on. Then one day she said, honey, let's break up when our children graduate from school. Well, when I heard her say that, I felt my heart breaking down. My legs were so weak that I flopped down to the floor and cried holding my wife's legs. Honey, please don't go. I can't let you leave now. I'll buy you a house and prepare your retirement funding. If you want to leave, go after I give them to you. I can't leave you now, and kept crying holding on to my wife's legs. My wife looked at me and said, wow, in which millennium? Now, I bought her a house, and she has a separate bank account with a couple of billions to use without my permission. But she doesn't say she is going to leave. We need to live well. So, we need to really live well. Since everything is intertwined like this, when we earn money, we must help children and aged people in need. In order to do so, we really need to live well. Happiness in our lives doesn't come from building up our moral standards. Happiness in our lives isn't something fancy. What really makes us happy is when we give away what satisfies us, and what makes us joyful. We should realize that we're fortunate to give away to others than to receive from them. Every mother's here. Do you want to take it for yourselves, or do you want to give it to your children? You want to give it to your children. Every man here would like to become rich and earn money to give to your wives, than to take everything for yourselves, right? So, we need to live well because we have people we love, and to live well, everyone here is staying until this late hour to learn more. Now, we need to write out our life scenarios like this, and play it out in our minds like a movie. So, this movie should play out vividly. Then, if this movie plays out in our minds, would it become true? In conclusion, yes! It'll become true. We need to change our bodies. For example, let's say that we're going to run a business together with someone. Let's suggest that we can earn money by doing this business, but this person will examine my expression and actions instead of listening to what I say to him. So, when you talk to someone else, your expression, tones, and actions should be trustworthy instead of what you say to them. When you try to persuade someone in a very quiet voice that it's not me, but my friend is running the business and so on, this would never move that person. Call your friends and say, "Come over quickly." "What is it?" "Just come, I'll tell you later." "What is it?" "Come now. If you don't come now, I'll just call Jungja instead. So come quickly." "What is it?" "We can earn a lot of money through this business. Should I become rich alone or together with you? Come quick." You should be confident enough to say this much. If you say it like this, people will come to you out of curiosity. But if I want to change like this, my mind must change first. If you change your mind, you'll eventually change. Should we try out an experiment? Our bodies can't distinguish between what we imagine and what actually happens. I'll put a handful of sweet and sour pomegranates in your mouth. When you chew on the sweet and sour pomegranate with your teeth, the juicy fragrance spreads through your mouth. Now, what happened in your mouth? If your mouth isn't watering, put up your hand. You should quickly go to the hospital. When you think about it, your body reacts the same way as when you actually eat a pomegranate. So, how I think will determine how I act. One scholar named this as self-fulfilling prophecy. You're prophesizing as much as you want to fulfill until you're satisfied with yourself. Then it'll come true. The biggest reason why you can't earn 30 or 70 million Korean won is because you've never thought about earning 30 or 70 million Korean won per month. That's the biggest reason. Then what kind of people make that much money? Very few people, but those who think about it will earn that much. Everything you imagine in your mind will come true. The reason for it coming true is because your body, facial expressions, way of speaking, and everything will change. The appearance of everyone who attended today was already in my mind. Since when? When I first established this company. I started lecturing to 17 people. But everything was the same, even when I lectured to 170,000 people, or 1.7 million people. Why? Because it was already in my mind. In the future, the number of Atomy members will grow to be millions and billions. Why? Because I already have that number in my mind. So, how should the quality and price of the product be like to have billions of Atomy members? In my mind, I'm imagining strategies for the global market. If we get billions of new Atomy members in the future, it's because I'm imagining them in my mind right now. So I'm already imagining the strategies to accommodate the number of members, such as developing new products, using the right price policy, and designing compensation plans. Your appearances in 3 or 5 years later comes out from your mind. It doesn't take long for you to get rich. Don't think that you need to earn money for the rest of your life. There aren't many rich people who actually work for their whole lives. There will be people who've earned a lot of money before. Those who have earned a lot before should know that there is time when you just earn a tremendous amount of money. So, in most cases, they get to earn a lifetime's worth of money during that time. These people would say that those were the fun days. 3 to 5 years is enough time for you to earn a lifetime's worth of money, or to establish a system where you can earn that much money. It's not about making money in the old way, but realizing that there is a new way of making money through Atomy, and you need to change your mind. Atomy business is about how you portray your successful self in your mind, what kind of house you own, what kind of car you drive, how you treat your friends, and how you give to your family. So it's about taking care of those close first. Of course, we need to balance it out well. We can live a successful life where we help others, give to others, are respected by others, and lead a life full of joy from serving others. I'll finish the lecture here. Thank you for listening until this late hour.